like to welcome everyone to the Board of County Commissioners meeting. This is the afternoon session. It's 1:30, continuation from this morning. This time, I'd like to ask for acceptance of approved publication.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, and motion passes. For statement for public hearings and procedures and quasi-judicial proceedings, our staff will present each item for consideration with staff's recommendation. The board would have an opportunity to ask questions of staff when the presentation is finished. The applicant will have the opportunity to make the presentation next. The board will have a chance to ask questions once the presenter is finished. Members of the public interested in speaking for or against the project or issue, please fill out the yellow form, the speaker's form that's located in the lobby. Indicate the item, whether you're for or against it. Place the form in the speaker's tray, either in the lobby or give it to Shani. Shani, raise your hand. There you go. That's our banner. Members of the public will only be allowed to comment once per item. If you'd like to have your comments submitted for the record, please fill out the green comment form located in the lobby and place the form in the tray or give it to Shani. Speakers should state their name and address clearly for the record and whether they're for or against the item. Speakers will be given 3 minutes unless they are an official spokesperson for an HOA or a legalized organization, and they'll be given 6 minutes. If a board member has questions regarding the speaker's comments, an opportunity to be given once the speaker's time has expired. Speakers should limit their comments to pertinent information regarding the agenda under consideration. The clerk is required to obtain all documents, photos, drawings, or anything that's presented here so we could have a good public record that is presented to the Board of County Commissioners. So if you show it to us, please be prepared to leave it with the clerk. Once all speakers are heard, the applicant will be given the opportunity to rebut if necessary. We will close the public hearing and put the matter at the hands of the commissioners for discussion, recommendations, or a motion. Following a motion or a second, there will be a board discussion and a vote will be taken. Commissioners who do not cast an objecting vote or are considered to be voting in support of the motion. Florida law requires that the board discussion in quasi-judicial actions supported by substantial evidence presented to the board during the hearing today. Competent substantial evidence is such evidence that remains reasonable, would be acceptable and adequate for support of the conclusion. There must be factual base in the record for support of the opinion testimony for both experts and non-experts. Individuals presenting testimony may rely on factual information that they present that is presented by county staff, the applicant presentation, or factual information including the county staff reports to support their testimony. All persons who present written material to the Board of County Commissioners must ensure that there's a copy that the clerk can keep for the public record. Any commissioner receiving oral or written communications regarding quasi-judicial items, if so, please disclose the information for communication and present it to the clerk per our rules. Does anyone have received any under the quasi-judicial information that's appeared today?
Already turned it in
Okay.
electronically.
Turned in electronically, thank you.
We did that as well? Okay. Thank you. Seeing as there's no other discussion, we'll go to the first public hearing, quasi-judicial item, which is item number 20. We'll hear from staff.
Good afternoon, Kathy Hamill, Development Services. I'm going to be presenting a special exception request, and considered for your recommendation this afternoon is for an alcohol beverage establishment, which is defined by a code as any establishment that is selling alcohol as the primary use for either on-premise or off-premise consumption. And what we mean by it's the primary use is that it's not incidental to other sales. So the primary use is where the majority of the sales is 51% or more, and it's considered to be primary. The applicant is proposing to operate a small-scale nano brewery in the Springs Plaza in which the sale of alcohol will be the primary use. In this plaza, which has been operating since 1978, there have been alcoholic beverage establishments that have been approved by special exception. They sometimes are for a restaurant use, which is in the distance of a school or a church, or is in this applicant's case, is where the primary use is the sale of alcohol beverages. This could be a bar or it could be a liquor store. Staff is recommending approval of this special exception and its associated development order for an alcohol beverage establishment within the C1 zoning district. And also on January 8th, the Planning and Zoning Board also recommended approval. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for staff? Thank you. At this time, we hear from the applicant. Is the applicant present? Can you come to the podium and tell us that, please? And give us your name and address for the record, so we can put that into the record.
Certainly. Chris Connor, 2225 Earleaf Court, Longwood 32779.
Okay, and your statement?
We concur fully with Kathy and just appreciate the opportunity to be able to open our establishment.
Okay, great. You'll be given an opportunity to rebut any items from the public. Thank you very much. This time, we'll go to the public comments. Is there any written request?
No, sir.
Since there's no written request, is there anyone in the audience that'd like to speak to the board on this item? Is there anyone in the audience? Seeing no public, we're going to close public input. Since there's no public input, there's no need for rebuttal. At this time, we'll go to the board. Any discussion from the board? Any questions?
Mr. Commissioner.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman. The Springs Plaza has a number of different restaurants and other establishments that are serving alcoholic beverages. This was approved by the Planning Board. Kind of looking forward to the small microbrewery there and its success. And therefore, I will move the approval of the consideration for the special exception in the C1 zoning district in Springs Plaza.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion, we'll call the question. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, that concludes our public quasi-judicial hearings. Now we're going to go to our presentation. Presentation will be presented by Mr. Jones, which Oxford Road. I did speak to Mr. Jones and our county attorney prior, and I believe they're going to be somewhere around each one. Mr. Jones, you think you can do plus or minus 20 minutes? You may need a little more time, but that's the best within reason.
Yes, sir.
And I believe the county attorney said the same. I'd like to ask the board, I'd like to, public input, since there's only a presentation, we're going to go to the public for maximum 60 minutes, and then we'll see if there's any additional questions from the board. So with that, Mr. Jones, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you, Commissioners, for allowing me the opportunity to come back here before you and make this presentation. Thank you, residents, for showing up to hear about this presentation. This is more directed at you folks than the Commission. Although they're likely to take a vote on this today, this affects everybody in the room and the community as a whole. I wanted to start out with very simple what this is and what this isn't, because as I've talked to the community, I've fielded a lot of misperception of what's going on here. And what we are proposing is a high-density mixed-use development, meaning it has elements of residential and commercial uses. It's not a freestanding casino, never will be. This proposed project meets the requirements of a long-standing developers agreement that we have with the county. The densities that are proposed in this project were those that staff has required. It did not come from us, the potential developer. Essentially, what we are doing is we are creating a new community in Seminole County, a very high-end, very desirable, very beneficial community here in Seminole County. It is not a casino, never will be a casino. It has nothing to do with other petition drives going on. I'm not sure if everybody's aware. There are at least 2 petition drives going on in statewide to bring statewide gambling to Florida. Has nothing to do with us. I did not send anything to your mailbox. I did not call your house at 8 o'clock at night. This is a local project that has local impact. So that's what we're dealing with here. So we've put together a presentation. It's been provided, a sample of it's been provided out front. If you haven't had a chance to grab it, please do. Commissioners, you all have it. I'm going to go ahead and get into it now and give you the basics of this proposed development. It is to be called the Oxford Town Center. That's conceptually what we're going with at this time. And it is a transformational vision of that area. If anybody's been around Seminole County long enough, you know that the Highlight Building is an eyesore that's been there longer than I've been around. I am a lifetime resident of Seminole County. My entire life, I've seen the eyesore. The only thing that, oh, I'm not even going to go there. So, I'm not sure why that's on there. Well, you guys can all see it in your publication. This is a bird's eye view of the project. I'm not sure whether the 92 is in there. That's not part of it. But essentially what this has is a number of residential structures that will, right now the number that we're going with is 1,027 luxury apartments, and they will have ground floor retail. As you can see in this conceptual, this shows the lined road that goes into the main anchor facility. What stands out to me in these renderings, and people need to understand, that this is a very innovative development concept. It will be lush with green space. It has rooftop parks, pocket parks throughout it. It's very walkable. It's the type of community that people will live there and interact there. The anchor of the entire facility is this sports and social concept. I'm going to get into that in a little bit. But you can, again, you see the openness of the concept that we're seeking to put here. Just some numbers and the benefits to the community. Based on a conversation with David Johnson, I provided to him the concept and what we're doing. He's run the numbers through his office. They're estimating the property taxes to be around $3.9 million in new property taxes to Seminole County, and that up from $75,000 a year in its current state. And that's just property taxes. That does not cover additional tax revenues from the retail side of it, from the anchor sports and social, from the other retail businesses, restaurants, cafes that will be integrated throughout this new community. Estimated $136.5 million over the next 35 years. As I mentioned, 1,127 new apartment units. That meets within the developer's agreement and the densities required by the county. 72,000 square foot of retail, dining, and entertainment space, the anchor of which I'm going to get to in a minute is this sports and social concept. The additional square footage comes from retail along the lined streets, which I'm going to show you in a little bit. It's all high-end retail stuff, named retailers, and something that Castleberry is desperate for, places to go eat, cafes, what they call white linen restaurants, places you want to visit. Here's another huge one, new jobs, in excess of 4,500 new jobs, about 3,000 in the construction process, and permanent jobs going forward of estimated around 1,500. So the main anchor of this proposed development is what's known as the sports and social. This sports and social is it's dubbed the ultimate fan experience. I'm going to throw this out for everybody to check out and research. Sportsandsocial.com is the website for this venue. There are 12 or 13 of them around the country in locations like Allentown, Pennsylvania, Arlington, Texas, Atlanta, Georgia, Besta, Maryland, Cary, North Carolina, Louisville, Kentucky, Hanover, Maryland, Philadelphia, PA, St. Louis, Miami, Chicago. This is not a new concept, and it's a proven successful concept. And like I said, it's dubbed the ultimate fan experience because it is a very experience-driven concept. When you walk in the front door, you feel like you're in a sports arena. 100-foot wide television screens playing all the whatever the current game or the current games of the week. High-end dining. This is not bar food. This is the menu is very impressive, that you can come in there with your family, watch a sports game on a Sunday, and have a nice meal and go home. In addition to the sports viewing, it has a lot of the traditional family-style games that you find in places like this. It has from skee ball, air hockey, ping pong, shuffleboard, foosball, billiards, arcade games. And an additional entertainment offering is a poker room. So here's the elephant in the room. This is not a traditional Las Vegas-style poker environment. This is a small card room. It makes up less than 5% of the venue. So in a 50,000 square foot venue, we're talking about 2,500 square foot, that there is a dedicated room with poker tables to play what is low stakes, non-house banked games. Let me explain that. The house has no take, so you're not playing against the house. The house does not get rich on poker here. The house provides a dealer who deals the games, and they take a cut of the pot to cover the dealer and everything in the place. They don't get rich off of poker in this place, off of being involved in the game. These are groups of guys who say, we used to play in my garage, we're going to go up to the Sports and Social, sit at the table for a couple hours, play some poker, watch some football. That's what we're talking about here. This is not casino-style, high-stakes gambling. It is an entertainment offering that goes in line with everything else that is in the venue. Another point to make. Gambling has happened on this location longer than I've been alive. The High Life Fronton and the associated wagering on premises has been going on for 40 years and continues today. The availability of our pari-mutuel license on that property allows for high life, horse racing, dog racing. Those are the big three. Simulcasting. There's nothing stopping the high life to be retrofitted and gambling activity continue there in a larger format. What we're proposing to do is restrict gambling on the site to poker. We are reducing the gambling on site. We have a vested right to have gambling there. This product is not intended to be a casino, will never be a casino. There will never be blackjack, there will never be slots, there will never be craps, any of those other types of you can see in the images. It does not fit the format. It's not intended to fit the format. It never will be part of the format. In addition, there's a first-class dining experiences. There's going to be 2 food offerings in this facility. One is the sports side. In addition, there's another side of it that's called PBR, which is like a cowboy barbecue restaurant. So it's a high-end barbecue restaurant as well. Comes out of Texas. Everything's good out of Texas, so they say. It is also an event venue, and they do a lot of corporate events, a lot of charity events, birthday parties, things like that, and live music. Depending on the format, and it's too early in the concept to say right now, but there are offerings around the country that have both an indoor stage and an indoor concert setting. It's my understanding the one in Arlington, Texas, the huge 100-foot screen rolls up, and there's a huge stage behind there where they have concerts. There's also ones that have outdoor concerts for live music outdoor. I'm not sure which flavor this one will get. We're too early for that, but there will be an offering for live music. So that's the anchor, is this Sports and Social, a potential rooftop bar. I mean, if you look at this thing, it's not a casino. It is a very exciting sports venue. Again, these are some of the other offerings around the country to show you that the format of it is very similar in each one, but each one is unique. In addition, it offers best-in-class dining and retail. This is just an example of the facility in Charleston, South Carolina. In addition to commercial offerings on the street level down that main boulevard I showed you guys earlier, there's additional commercial, according to the developers agreement, along Oxford Road. So that covers the commercial and, again, the main anchor. I mentioned the residential aspect of this. This is very luxury residential stuff, very high-end. And what does that mean for the surrounding community? When this facility is finished, the property values all around it are going to go up. The surrounding communities are going to see their property values go up. The surrounding commercial is going to see the benefit. The property owner is going to see the ability to potentially raise their rents and bring in more money. It absolutely will transform the entire area around it. I'm going to take a little bit of time and invite Mr. Cordish up here to speak in just a minute and give you an idea of who is doing this project, because I think it's pretty darn important. The property owner is RD Management. They've owned the High Life for a number of years. They've worked with the county on the Oxford Road expansion project, and he has now partnered with the Cordish companies. Cordish companies, and Mr. Cordish can give you this pitch better than I, but I've got to drive this one home because it's really important to me. This is not the type of developer that comes in, builds a project, and disappears. This is the type of folks that come in and become a resident of the county. And they have done the market research, and they are very excited to become residents of Seminole County. They have received 7 ULI awards. I'm not sure if you folks are familiar with the Urban Land Institute is. It is a worldwide, very prestigious organization that reviews development all across the globe. These folks have received 7 awards for their projects for excellence. You know how many developers have received 7? None. Do you know how many have received 6? None. 5? None. 4? None. 3? None. They are at a level of no one else when it comes to this type of a development. And the standards for getting those ULI awards, it is the type of project that transforms not only the site itself, but the entire region. I encourage you to do some research on ULI awards. It's incredibly impressive what these folks have been able to do, and they want to do it right here in Seminole County. It is an incredible opportunity. It's more than just the site that is improved, and this is more than just the issue of a little poker room. This project truly has the potential to change the entire region of Seminole County. It's an incredible opportunity. So I'm going to let Mr. Cordish come up here real quick and just say a few words about himself and his company.
Good afternoon. Thank you for letting me address you and the residents of Seminole County. I am already a resident of Florida and own a home here, and we are getting, hopefully, very deeply involved in Seminole County. I just want to give you one quick 2 sentences on our company and our history, because I think it'll give you some comfort. We were founded 110 years ago by my grandfather. I'm the 3rd generation. I have 3 sons in the business who each head up departments, and they're the 4th generation. And I'm happy to say we just have a 5th generation grandson who joined with us. We don't buy and flip and sell. We buy and own. So we have projects that are 80, 90, 70, 50, 60 years old, because that's what we do. We develop the ground up, and we keep them, and we become residents of the community. This is a mixed-use, $500 million project that is basically housing and retail. Mike did a very good job of telling you the anchor is a sports and social, of which there are 12 in the United States. They become the bedroom of the community, or the living room of the community. Everybody comes there to watch the Super Bowl in a couple days, or the World Series, or the World Cup, or the Olympics. If you think about Mike said it's 100-foot. It's a 100-foot LED screen by 80 feet, so it's bigger than any movie screen you've ever been. And when you come to watch a game here, you're in the middle of it. We have these facilities outside of the Dallas Cowboys Stadium or the Atlanta Braves Stadium. We're partners with the St. Louis Cardinals. All over the United States, people come with tickets, and they're having such a good time at Sports and Social, they don't go into the stadium. And we have many of them that are not connected with stadiums. The final thing that I wanted to say, though, is to describe, and Mike did a good job of it, what goes on in the Sports and Social. What does the word social mean? Sports is easy. You're watching unbelievable LED and it immerses you, and you come with dozens of your friends and it's a party. What's the social part? The social part is we have games that you can play. They're not casino games. They're shoot a hoop basket, they're skeet ball, they're shuffleboard. We have dozens of different games because that's what people want to do today. They don't want to be locked into their seat for 2-3 hours. And if you go to the stadiums today, that's what they're doing. They're trying to get away from you're locked for 4 hours, somebody on your left and your right, more of a social setting. Part of these social games is a very small poker room where neighbors come to play against neighbors. And Mike did a very good job of describing it, but I want you to understand it completely. There are no house odds. When you go to a casino, the casino has odds against the players. This is simply one neighbor playing against another neighbor. We deal for these players. We provide a deck of cards and we provide a table. And we take $5 out of the pot. The pot may be a big pot that, a lot of raising of the betting of one guy against another guy or a lady, or it might be a small pot. We take $5, and that's to pay for the dealer. But there's no odds. When you talk about a casino, you're playing against the house. And depending on which game you play, slots, the odds are stacked very heavily in favor of the house. If you play blackjack, if you know what you're doing, it's a small odds for the house. There are no house odds here. It's just one neighbor playing against the other. And they can come anytime they want, play, get up and leave. They don't have to organize the game at their house. And that's it. There will be no blackjack, no roulette, no craps, no casino, no house odds, no nothing. It's just another social game which we found people like to do. They've been playing poker forever against their neighbors. They can come in here and not have to organize it, along with playing skeet ball or pop-a-shot or table darts, whatever. Thank you for the time today, and hopefully we'll get to know you much better as we go along. Thank you.
Thank you.
I may call Mr. Cordich back up in a minute to explain one other thing to you folks. We went ahead and, based upon my interactions with the community, and I've talked to a lot of people since the last time I was here, and I've done my best to try to narrow down the bigger concerns and address them, at least bring them to light to you folks, and give you our response to those. And I provided you folks with our brochure that has them written out. One big question is that the site has been authorized for decades to conduct pari-mutuel wagering. So why do we need to go to the ballot? A lot of people don't understand that the charter in Seminole County restricts any type of casino gambling. I'm going to get into reading that in a little bit because I think it's going to come to that. But there is a restriction, and we have to go to the people to have this project approved. Even though this is an incredible, very beneficial project, the component of a poker room requires us to come before the people to get approved. This overall project, the anchor, everything about it, it is dependent upon the format that we're presenting, if for it to work, it has to have a poker room. So that's why we're here. We're here to ask the people to approve this overall project. Why have we chosen to come to the commission to put this on the ballot rather than go through the voter signature collection process? That's been a big one. People want to know why. I've heard some people say, why are you trying to skirt the process of getting a petition? Well, I'll tell you folks today, we are not trying to skirt anything. The charter's very clear. This matter should go before the voters of Seminole County for approval. There's nothing in the Charter Amendment 5.1 that says anything about a petition, requiring a petition or a petition at all. The Seminole County Charter says that the Board of County Commissioners may put it on the ballot for the people to decide. So that's what we're asking to do. There's another reason why, there's several reasons why we are not going to go the petition route. I want you to hear it from Mr. Cordish himself, because he is very in tune with what is going on statewide when it comes to casino gambling, and it is absolutely a factor in the decision to do what we're doing.
Briefly, there are two reasons why we don't want to go sending people out to your home to knock on doors and have you sign something just to put it on the ballot. Number one, I think in the COVID environment we're in, it's not a smart thing to do today. But overriding that, there's a movement by out-of-state casinos, big, major Las Vegas casinos, to try and crack Florida open and to break open the monopoly that the Seminoles have, and that the state legislature and the governor have entered into a compact with. I'm not being critical of them. The Seminoles have a monopoly. They've done a great job with the Hard Rocks, and they want to keep their monopoly. If you're a Las Vegas casino, you want to come in, what better market in the world is there than Florida? So they're going at loggerheads. And how do you do it if you're a Las Vegas casino? You go out and you collect these signatures. Already they've announced that they've spent $68 million collecting them. They're all over Seminole County. They have dozens of collection agencies that do this. There's all kinds of allegations of fraud, that they're signing up dead people, that they're forging signatures. I'm not getting into that, but that's what the media says. In this environment where these two elephants are going back and forth about casinos, I don't think it's smart for us to go out with this little poker room. You know, they say if you're in between two elephants, you get in between two elephants, you get crushed. We will get misunderstood. It's not what we're about. We're a $500 million mixed-use project with a few social games. And I think it would be a big mistake for the county commissioners, for ourselves, for the citizens, for us to go out in the face of these massive petition drives that are going on that we have nothing to do with, and with a new petition. And I know my attorneys are lifelong Seminole County residents. They're getting calls already asking, are you all behind these casino? We have nothing to do with them. It has nothing to do with us. And what we were asking you to do, what our attorneys have described, is simply put us on the ballot so we don't have to, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't go out there today in that cesspool of arguments that are going on, and I don't think it's smart in a COVID environment. And either put us on the ballot and let the people decide, is this mixed-use development and taking down the High Line, which is an eyesore and has the potential to do massive gaming. They're a pari-mutuel licensed, approved by the state to do all kinds of betting. And it should be eliminated, it should end, and our project will end it and have a few social games in it. So I hope that explains to you why I think it's not smart and wouldn't be a wise thing. Let the people decide with all due respect, put us on the ballot. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cordish. I'm going to try to blow through these as quick as I can. The other frequently asked question was jobs. What's it going to create? I went through that earlier. In excess of 4,500 new jobs. The additional tax revenues, estimated $4 million in property tax revenues alone. Here's one that I get is, what, if anything, can we do about the potential for adding to gambling addiction problems, or what would we do to offer people for help with gambling issue problems? And I submit this is not the type of gambling use that's going to create those problems, but notwithstanding, there is a long-standing fund in the state of Florida. If you're for pari-mutuel license holders, card room holders, we have to pay into that fund that provides support and programs to help people that may have gambling problems. So there are already things in place that we will certainly take part of. Crime. There is a belief that a 2,000 square foot poker card room is going to increase crime in the area. There's nothing to substantiate that whatsoever. In fact, in the locations where these projects have been developed, there's been a noticeable decrease in crime. Those things can be proven. Cordish Companies retains their own on-site security that works very closely with local law enforcement. Typically, they're taking a property just like this one, which is dead and blighted, is a dark community. Crime happens in darkness. These communities are very well lit, they're very upscale, and once they're fully completed out, you have a whole new area. So the level of crime has been proven to drop in these types of projects. So again, this isn't a casino. It is a mixed-use development that has a small poker room. Has this town center been approved by Seminole County? Well, we have a developer's agreement that is the framework that we're working under. So has it been approved? No, it hasn't. But the framework has been approved, and we fall within that framework. I already covered number 8, so I'll skip that one in the interest of time. Number 9, I'll skip that for the interest of time. Here's another big one, is the last question that I'm going to address, and that is, if you put this on the ballot and it is voted on by the voters, will it open the door for gambling across Seminole County? And I absolutely do not think that's going to be the case. And here's why. I had a meeting with the county manager and the county attorney where I submitted to them the potential ballot language that we would like to use. I know we would have to work additionally with the county attorney's office to get that finalized, but this can be restricted to just this site on the ballot. And the language that we provided said, will you approve the addition of a poker card room at the High Life facility and nowhere else? That's what people would be voting upon. So if someone else in the county wanted to come in and open up a brand new card room, a brand new casino, they would have to go through the same process we're going, and the people of Seminole County who have reserved the right unto themselves to make the decision would have to make the decision. I know there's another location in Seminole County that has previously attempted to bring in a card room, and it didn't happen. It was the wrong location, and it wasn't well liked. If they tried to do it again, it would have to go to the ballot, and the people would make that decision. So no, it does not open up the door for gambling across Seminole County. This is a site-specific issue, and that's what we want to keep it that way, and we can do that in the ballot language. I lost my page. So that is my presentation on this project, and that brings me to the ask. We are asking the Board of County Commissioners to put this issue on the ballot for the people to decide. I'm going to refer you folks to the actual Section 5.1 casino gambling that is in the Seminole County Charter. I'm going to read you the first sentence because it drives it home pretty clear to me. It says, "The citizens of Seminole County reserve to themselves the power to approve or disapprove casino gambling of any nature within the boundaries of the county." The people. It's not the board. We are asking you to do what the charter says. I'm not trying to skirt anything. I'm not trying to create new charter amendments. I'm asking you to put it out there to the people. This is an incredible opportunity for the county, for Castleberry, for the entire region. It's a very big issue that the people should decide. And the avenue to do that is the ballot. And I'm asking you folks to put it on the ballot. I'm not sure how I did on time, Chairman, but I would like to reserve for rebuttal if...
You'll get that opportunity, Mr.
Thank you.
Jones. Thank you, Ms. Jones. So before we go to the board, let me go to county staff. We've asked him to give us an update as well. Mr. Applegate?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. First of all, Mark, a fine presentation, but I want to continue on with just a brief statement on the law. After the charter provision was adopted, several years after that, in 2018, pursuant to 2018-172 laws of Florida, a special law for Seminole County was adopted by the legislature, which overrides a provision in the cardroom statute, Florida statutes, concerning local government's approval for card rooms. And the special law provides, and for the benefit of the audience and those listening, I'll read it. The law provides, notwithstanding Section 849.8.086, paren 16, close paren, Florida statutes, before the Division of Parimutuel Wagering may issue any initial license for a parimutuel facility in Seminole County to operate a card room, the required local government approval shall be granted with respect to such parimutuel facility only by the Board of County Commissioners of Seminole County pursuant to the requirements of Article 5, Section 1 of the Seminole County Home Rule Charter, in effect as of January 1, 2018. For purposes of this act only, the term casino gambling, as defined in Article 5, subsection 5(1)(b) of the Seminole County Home Rule Charter, is deemed to include all activities authorized or by conducted pursuant to Section 849.086 Florida statutes. So what does this mean in relation to, as Mr. Jones cited, Section 5.1 of the Charter? It means this, that the board decides whether to allow card rooms in compliance with the Charter, which the board cannot approve a card room without the affirmative vote of the county voters. So simply put, the Board of County Commissioners is the gatekeeper, if you will, to allow card rooms or not to allow card rooms in Seminole County. And if they do vote to provide it on the ballot, it would require an affirmative vote of the voters in the general election.
Do you have any other updates you want to give us?
That's it for now.
Okay. Mr. Abel, do you have any update?
No, sir.
Okay. Thank you. At this time, we'll go to the public. Shani, I'm sure we have a couple of people that want to speak. Would like to speak for first. And if you call out the ones.
Sure. David Henson.
If you can call them out in blocks of 3, that'd be great, Shani. 4.
Blocks of 3 or 4?
Blocks of 3.
Thank you. David Henson, 233 Bridle Path, Castleberry, Florida. Come to you as a resident of Seminole County for 50 years. I've heard this project equated with the strip clubs and adult
Excuse me,
entertainment.
David. Can you start the clock, Shani? He has 3 minutes. I'm sorry, David.
I've heard this this project equated to adult entertainment in the strip clubs. Those of you that know me know that I was instrumental in getting rid of some of the strip clubs. So this is not that. I support this because I think it would be a catalyst for this whole area. This area has been treated like a red-headed stepchild for several years. I think it would be a catalyst for improvement in the whole area. I think if you put it before the voters, I think they'll approve it once they understand what this project means. Expansion of gambling. Gambling's here to stay. You can pick up your phone and gamble on your phone today. I don't see this as an expansion of gambling. I don't see it as anything but a positive investment in our community. It looks like a very high-end project. This is not a pipe dream. This is a proven product. They've proven it in other communities. So I support it. And I can't say much more than that.
Thank you, David.
Next, we have Nancy DeVita, followed by Ken Greenberg, and then Paul Partika.
Okay, thank you. Can we set the time, please?
Hi, Nancy DeVita, 2514 Savitas Place in Castleberry. I fully support this entire project. I own a small business in Castleberry, and it's a franchise business, and when I was working with the franchisor to select where I was going to place the business, they strongly encouraged me to go to Volusia County, and it was actually the redevelopment plans for this Oxford Road project back in 2014 that helped me convince the franchisor to put my business in Seminole County on 1792. So I very much would like to see a project move forward here. I love everything about this project. I love that it's bringing high-end residential, everything that there is to offer here. And as somebody that lives also in Seminole County, I'd love to be able to go right there versus driving down the road to Maitland, Winter Park, Orlando. In terms of placing this on the ballot, I personally would not be able to re-elect anyone if they prevent the voters from, voting on a type of issue like this. I think it's very important that we, as residents of Seminole County, maintain our right to, say what happens in our county. So I definitely would like to see you guys move forward with putting this on the ballot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would the speaker mind sharing what franchise it is?
Anytime Fitness.
Thank you.
Ken Greenberg is next.
Good afternoon. Pleasure to see all of you. I know every one of you individually as well. I've had the opportunity to view the Oxford Road.
Excuse me, sir. Can you give us your name and address for the record?
Oh, yes, sir. Ken Greenberg, 1635 White Dove Drive, Winter Springs, Florida.
Thank you.
I've had the opportunity to view the Oxford Road Town Center project, and this project seems like an incredible opportunity for the local area and for Seminole County as a whole. As a former city commissioner and a retired real estate developer, I know what it takes to create a successful project, and clearly this project clicks off all the boxes that the county and city leaders would hope, such as millions of dollars in annual taxes and over $125 million over the next several decades, jobs, thousands of jobs, good jobs. Urban beautification, I could tell you in my city, anytime a tree comes up, I think people would rather see a human die rather than a tree, as sick as that sounds. But in this particular case, you have a blighted building, effectively, an eyesore, if you will, no trees having to come down. In fact, the landscaping they would put back would be far superior to anything that exists there right now. So, the urban beautification is huge. Multifamily housing, beautiful multifamily housing. We're not talking about Section 8 or low income. We're talking about high quality housing there, which is really, quite frankly, will upgrade the area tremendously. And over 70,000 square feet of retail, entertainment, dining. I know in my city, Winter Springs, we're terribly lacking all of that. In fact, a lot of the Winter Springs would actually come here because we don't have that. I would hate to see the county miss out on this opportunity. I am familiar with the charter, and it does say the people are the ultimate decision makers, not the Board of Commissioners. Thus, my ask, please put this project on the ballot and let the people decide. As a sidelight, I'm very familiar with this particular company, the Cordish Company. As you know, I'm being a hotel developer, now retired, and involved with many high-end properties and deal with companies like DeBarlo, for example, and several other high-end developers. I have seen several of Mr. Cordish's projects in Kansas City and other areas, and I will tell you, the fact that you get such a high-end developer that's willing to come in here and invest $500 million or more is an opportunity you just don't want to pass up. You've got to let the people have a say. Thank you.
Thank you.
You want a copy of this for any reason?
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you. Paul Partika.
Good afternoon, everyone. And Mr. Chairman, members of the County Commission, County Manager, and County Attorney. It's a wonderful afternoon right now. It's almost sunshine out there, even though it's raining.
Excuse me, sir.
Because,
Can you give us...
Paul Partika, 404 Park Lake Drive, Winter Springs, Florida.
Thank you.
I'm here as a very excited resident of Seminole County. I mean, what you have here is a super project. And I talk on behalf of, I was the former founding chair of the 1792 CRA district and also past president of the Central Florida Commercial Association of Realtors. So 2 parts. This project is the epitome of what we want when we talk about the CRA district. This is exactly the kind of project we want. This is impactful not just for Seminole County, but really the outlying areas also. That's number 1. Number 2, as a realtor in Central Florida, I mean, this is exactly what we want for the real estate industry and the real estate neighborhood right here. This will impact this area and create not only increased value for the real estate and the neighbors, and I represented some of those neighbors and some of those owners, but this is exactly the kind of project that we want. And so from my standpoint, this is something that this county commission can support fully. Now, the last part, because of a clause in our laws, we have to put this out to our people, to our fellow citizens. And what makes this easy is, as a commission, and we've been there in terms of voting as a commissioner or as a councilman, you don't have to do that. All you have to do is, in a democratic situation, put this on the ballot for our citizens, our people that we represent. They're the ones that make this vote. And to me, that's what this is all about in the democracy. So let the people make that decision, allow through your recommendation to put this on the ballot and let the people decide. That's it. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak. I think this is one of the most exciting projects that Seminole County will have today and for the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Next.
We have 3 speakers who haven't indicated if they are in support or
Okay,
opposition.
we'll just wait to the end then for them. Okay.
Next, we have Nancy Harmon,
Okay.
followed by Lisa Hudson, followed by John Sawinski.
Good afternoon, everybody. Nancy Harmon, 752 Pioneer Way, Geneva, Florida. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Good. Been around too many people with COVID. I am negative.
And thank you for that.
But, yeah, okay. So the first thing I want to state here is that I'm very concerned that I've heard, and maybe I heard it wrong, but if this does not get a poker approval through the citizens, that this wouldn't happen. This development couldn't happen without this poker room, okay? That's the one thing I've heard. And I may be wrong, like I said. So my question is, if this went forward and the poker room fails because neighbors get tired of playing with their neighbors, and they decide I'd rather go back home and do this because I can buy beer cheaper. I can drink my own beer. I don't have to pay $5, $10 for a beer. I can get a burger. I can have chips, blah, blah, blah. I'd rather be home where I can cuss. I can do what I want to do. I can throw things. If the poker fails, what part of that venue fails? Just a thought. Okay, so certain things that I took away from this. First of all, I think this is a wonderful project for iDrive. I think it's a wonderful project for somewhere like Heathrow. But in that area where you've got the ability for people to come from Volusia, Lake County, because we've got our internet, our exchange now with the interstate kind of almost done. You've got people local who could get there. You've got people from Daytona that would be able to drive in an hour. People from South Orlando. I mean, I think it's kind of exciting, yes. What I don't think is exciting is who would buy it and where's the income in this community that would be able to afford this upscale houses. And then what would happen to the people who already live in that community and their taxes get raised? They're seniors, they're young moms and dads trying to make their careers, trying to make their way, and their taxes would get raised because their property taxes would go up because the value of the land in the area would go up. What happens to them? When you look at this area, you also think, and I know you all know this area, we have stores that already struggle because of taxes and because of community. We can't afford to allow that to happen. So my thought is here, this is a wonderful project. It needs to be done someplace else. And the other thing is I would love for you to put this on the ballot without a petition, because I have 5 things that we will be up here for asking. Okay? So just so you know, we are prepared. If this one goes without the process that you've imposed on us, we are dancing in the streets. Thank you.
Lisa Hudson.
Houston.
Hello, I'm Lisa Houston. I live at 300 Partridge Lane, Longwood, Florida, 32779. Castleberry is not Los Angeles or Miami or St. Louis. Castleberry is a sleepy little town here in Central Florida. I grew up in Los Angeles, and I've seen the changes that it met when I was a little girl up until now, and I've seen the changes in Seminole County since when I was a little girl living here in 1976. And although I believe that a lot of this project is very positive, I think Castleberry needs a beautiful shopping and retail area and grocery stores. I do not think it needs high-rise buildings, high-rise apartments. It's going to lead to incredibly more traffic, and it's already bad traffic right there. Much more with the loud, they were talking about how it's having a outside band venue, and band venues, it's going to be very loud for the community and the neighborhoods in the surrounding area. There's also a couple of questions I have. Just because area was designated like the High Life for 40 years as a gambling area, or where you could do, gambling, that type of thing there, why do you still have to continue with that? Just because it was there for 40 years, that doesn't make it a good thing. Also, my other question is, if this poker room that's 2,000 square feet and only 5% of a $500 million project, why is it so cut and dry? If you can't have it, it's nothing. That part doesn't make sense to me. It makes it seem like it's a little fishy on that reasoning to me. I'm wondering why if something is so small, why does it have such a big impact if they're making it sound like it's no big deal? So those are the questions that I have, and these are the reasons why I oppose it. I am for a wonderful family-oriented neighborhood with parks, small retail shops, more family-oriented. I don't believe this is going to be so. I believe that the extra noise and traffic will create more crime, which will bring down property values in the surrounding area. And I just think Castleberry should remain a sleepy little town, and it does need to be somewhere out more in the tourist area. So that's my view on it, so I oppose it.
Thank you.
John Zawinski.
Mr. Chairman, honorable commissioners, thank you for your time today. My name is John Sawinski, and I'm speaking today on behalf of No Casinos in Florida. It's a statewide organization opposed to the expansion of gambling in our state.
Do you have an address, sir?
Yes, sir. It's 201 South Orange Avenue, Suite 950, Orlando.
Since you're an organized organization, you'll be given 6 minutes.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Here to speak against this, and I'd like to say a couple of things. One, that if this matter were to proceed to the ballot, we believe it should proceed to the ballot without the blessing of this commission and have a petition drive that's done. That's not what the requirement is, but there is a requirement statewide if there's casino gambling. That has to be done by initiative. And the reason why Amendment 3 said that, which voters approved in 2018, is because that allows the maximum opportunity for public discussion, public discourse, public interaction on an issue that can define the character of a community for years to come. And I'd like to say a few things. One, on the history of this issue, Seminole County has stood strong against the expansion of gambling in this state throughout most of my lifetime. And I've been involved with this issue since 1994. The issue of gambling has been on our statewide ballot on 5 separate occasions. And in each of those occasions, Seminole County voters have voted against the expansion of gambling in our state. Many of those would have affected gambling in the footprint of this. And one of the things I'd like to point out is that gambling is the ultimate give an inch, take a mile proposition when it comes to authorizations. Our state's history is riddled with examples of when either commissioners or legislatures or voters have opened the door this much, they ended up with that much gambling at the end of the day. And I'll give you a couple of examples. In 1994, there was an amendment that said that any parimutuel permit holder would be given a casino license had that amendment passed, as a matter of the state constitution, without regard to local decision-making, without regard to the decisions of local voters in that matter. Thankfully, that was turned down and that by voters. And again, over 70% of Seminole County voters voted against that. When we look at a couple of things, one, the contradictory nature, and a couple of the other speakers mentioned this. This is a de minimis poker room operation that is an essential element of a couple $100 million project. That doesn't make economic sense. It's either de minimis or it's essential. It's not both at the same time. And if you look at, the other thing I heard is that there's these other petition drives going on. We wouldn't want this confused with it. Those drives are over. The deadline was February 1st in the state. Both failed to make the ballot. Both failed to get the number of voter signatures required by the deadline to be placed on the ballot. One is suing because they didn't like the outcome. They won't like the outcome of the court case either. And so there is no other competing gambling narrative in the petitioning realm as we speak right now. The other thing that I'd like to point out is that one of the things that's happened in recent legislation is that parimutuel permits have become anchors for additional forms of gambling that are simply legalized by the state. In 1996, the legislature legalized poker rooms. They required local county commissions to approve those poker rooms. Seminole County is the only state with parimutuels in Florida that has not approved poker rooms, we think to the benefit of Seminole County residents, because any economic study that's done of gambling says that it does not bring new revenues. $1 spent at a poker table or on parimutuel wagering in a casino is $1 not spent at a bar, at a movie theater, at a restaurant, at some other business that's there. And that's why 40% of the restaurants and a third of the retail establishments in Atlantic City went out of business after this happened. Let's look at both of the initiatives that failed to make the ballot, one of them narrowly. Both of them, if this were active today, if either of those passed, One of them would allow for sportsbook operations at parimutuel facilities, at these types of facilities and such. As I look at the architecture of it, it's built for it. It'd be and in fact, one of the pictures had a FanDuel sportsbook as a picture in one of the comparable things that are there. FanDuel is the sponsor of that particular amendment. But if you look at the amendment the Las Vegas Sands sponsored, it would have allowed, in compliance with the compact that's now been vacated. We went to a federal judge who shot down the Seminole Compact that the governor and legislature had passed. But this was written because it assumed the compact would be in place to only affect parimutuels in North Florida. And what it would have done is it would have said that any card room licensee, not parimutuel permit holder, but any card room licensee would qualify to become a casino if they made the type of investment that's being talked about in this. And that amendment, guess what, had a preemption provision that said that local governments could not enforce any zoning more strict than a hotel in order to have that, and could not restrict how many gaming stations there would be, how many slot machines, how many this. And so what I ask you to think about is that a poker room today is, by any sort of these motions, a casino tomorrow or a sports book tomorrow with one act of the legislature or one constitutional amendment or one preemption provision that are all too often in Tallahassee today. Commissioners, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Next, we have Chris Stone, followed by Sharon Kraft and Diana Marsden.
Chris Stone, live at 2602 Wells Avenue, Fern Park, Florida. I think the key thing that I want to come across is, I heard a lot of positive things from people that live outside of Fern Park. This is literally across the street from my house where is my 3-year-old. While I'm opposed to many things, I'm in favor of redevelopment of this area. It needs to be redeveloped. I don't disagree with that at all. I think that spending $500 million and being reliant on a 2,000 square foot room seems, insane to me, but clearly that's the game that we're playing today. My theory is if we allow this to go forward based upon such a small square footage of failure, if that one part fails, what else fails after that? And if that's such an important part of the business development plan here, how can we be successful as a community based around such a small ask of a poker room today that makes no money? And we're going to build an entire community around this as our one pinch point. So while I am in favor of the place being redeveloped, it needs to happen, I am against having an entire place levied against one small room. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next.
Sharon Kraft.
Hi. It's actually Charmin Craft, and I'm at that's okay. I'm at 517 Prairie Lake Drive. I also live right across the street. So the big lights right here, I'm like right there. So I live on Prairie Lake. The reason I'm here today is to oppose this, and I have a little thing to read to you. No offense to the developer, but the residents of Fern Park, and specifically the Prairie Lake area, do not wish to have a gambling venue of any sort, in our community, let alone on this property. We've worked very hard over the years to clean up our community. The gentlemen's clubs are gone. The gambling casino in the Winn-Dixie Plaza is gone. Our crime has gone down, and we don't have prostitutes. We had them. We don't have prostitutes walking up and down the street anymore, and drug deals going on at all hours of the day and night. Things have gotten markedly better around here, and we want to keep it that way. That being said, I'd also like to say that I'm opposed to the large 5-story apartment buildings being proposed here as well. Our area simply cannot handle any more traffic, especially if you put in multi-level housing units. All of you already know our schools are overcrowded, and they can't handle any more students. Our infrastructure was never designed to have this kind of housing in this area. And the impact that the increased traffic will have on the surrounding neighborhoods is also very significant. I know that you're already dealing with a sewer issue with this project, whatever you call that, I don't know, underneath the ground. But let me also bring to your attention the stormwater runoff that would be increased, that is going into Prairie Lake already from all the increased traffic in the area. I know that with this proposed development, An extension of Prairie Lake Drive has also been discussed, which I am vehemently opposed to. I'd like to go on record to say that I'm opposed to the Prairie Lake Drive being taken across to Oxford, because our road is a 20-mile-an-hour residential two-lane road, and it's a cut-through from Maitland Boulevard, 436, and Maitland Boulevard out to 1792 and Prairie Lake. So they use our neighborhood to cut through, which is, this development's only going to make all of that traffic worse. It's just adding insult to injury already. Blah, blah, blah. Let me see here. What else do I want to say? Oh, finally, I'm extremely opposed to the large entertainment venues being held on this property. All of this developers' live developments have been in highly populated urban areas. Putting something like that here will destroy the improvements that we've made so far in our community. Also, we can hear everything that happens over there, and we can't even be in our backyard if we can't enjoy a Sunday afternoon with our family. I mean, we don't want this kind of noise pollution. We don't want this kind of light pollution, overcrowding, increased traffic. There isn't one thing I'm in favor of here. Sorry, guys. I am definitely opposed to this. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Diana Marsden, followed by Don Epps.
Okay, Diana Marsden, 617 Prairie Lake Drive. Basically, going to say a lot of the same stuff that Sharman said. We have the same viewpoints. I've been living in Fern Park for 24 years, and Altamont 33 years before that. I've seen a lot of changes. Fern Park has come so far since the era of the gentlemen's clubs, when I would witness prostitutes walking down my street, yes, with my children there. Shoes used to be draped over our power lines, which is an indication drugs are available. If you guys didn't know that, that is what that means. And then I remember one time coming back from dinner with my husband and my family, and we're watching this guy carrying some lawn equipment. I'm like, oh, that poor guy, he didn't have a car, he has to carry his lawn equipment to do his work. About 30 minutes later, we get back into our house, and it's our lawn equipment he took out of our shed. Thank goodness for those pawn shops, right? Yay. No. Okay. So then there was the era of the storefront in Winn-Dixie Plaza that had the gambling machines inside. And there were scary people would come out, they ran out of money, they would come up to your car, and I'm sorry, I got 2 little girls. They're scared to death. I don't want that coming back. My kids are grown now, but I don't want it coming back to Chris's family or any of our other families where we have to worry about that. I mean, we would always lock our car doors. We were so scared. Seminole County and Castleberry, kudos to you. You guys worked really hard. You got rid of those gentlemen's clubs with the overpass. Thank you very much. Our community, I mean, I can actually leave my front door unlocked if I wanted to now. It's amazing. I love it. I just want to keep our community improving. We've got the new Axios building. We've got the new storage building going in. We've got new buildings coming up, and our community is improving. So at this point, why would Seminole County even entertain this request after all the hard work to clean up this community? Yes, there will be increased revenue from tax dollars, but more will be spent on police to patrol the increased crime, more costs to convict those criminals, more incarceration costs, increased taxes, traffic will mean more maintenance of roads, increased stormwater, pollution to our lakes, which Prairie Lake, as Sharman just mentioned earlier. If you look at the radar sensor, oh, I'm about to run out of time, shoot. Okay, gambling of any form will affect an area. The Grinnell's and Mustard's findings, economists from University of Bayer and University of Georgia, say that it is increased in crime. Aggravated assault, robbery, burglary, auto theft, larceny, and rape. The stuff that they're using, they're skewed numbers. They're numbers based on the entire population coming from the visitors, not from the community itself. And that's not right. It's our community that's getting affected. Am I out of time?
Yes, you are.
Okay.
Thank you.
I had more to say, but you have my letter anyways.
Don Epps.
Thank you.
As chairman, members of the commission, county council, we appreciate the opportunity. Don Epps, 144 Peacock Drive, Altamont Springs, unincorporated, Seminole County. 6 or 7 blocks from here sits the Florida Council on Compulsive Gambling on First Street here. 1/3 of the problem gamblers commit illegal acts to fund gambling. The cost of gambling-related crimes has effects on society, law enforcement, judicial system, prison system, individuals, families, businesses. No good thing could come out of adding any more gambling here in Seminole County. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have the 3 speakers who didn't
Okay, just
indicate.
Go right down the list.
Doug Mattern, Colleen Hufford, and Wynn Adams.
Okay, thank you. And the only reason why we didn't call you before, because you didn't check either for or against.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much. My name is Doug Matern. I live on 245 South Street in Fern Park, Florida. I've lived there. I've owned my house for almost 15 years. My family has been in that house for 3 generations, and we just brought a new little girl into the house, so that's 4 generations there. So we've witnessed a lot of what Fern Park's done throughout the years. And like many of others have said, all have been in the good direction over the last 2 decades, to a point where it's very pleasing, very exciting to tell people where you live on Prairie Lake, being tucked back in there. It is a unique little hidden area in the community that is very, very untouched. It is still having a lot of the old homes, a lot of trees, and like they've said, the concerns we've had already have been traffic. In the past, there's been crime. That's been cleaned up. This would definitely bring more crime and traffic. Additionally, one of my main concerns from sitting where my house is on South Street is I already can see the top of the Lowe's sign at night. Put a 6 5-story buildings there, a big screen with a bunch of lights and a stadium, we're definitely going to be staring at that light all night long. So we won't even be able to turn our lights off in our backyard at night because of the light pollution that we'll see across that lake. We already experienced it a little bit from Eastmont Park there, but at least they have controls on when those lights are on. They don't run all night long till 2 a.m. till the facility closes. So those are my main concerns and what that's going to do to our lifestyle and the way we live our lives. So that I'm just going to leave it with agreeing with pretty much everything that's been said so far for the individuals that live in Fern Park, not the individuals that live around the area that may benefit. So I want to make sure that you guys are thinking about what it's going to do to the actual tax-paying citizens that are going to be affected by all the impact of this development, not the individuals that live other places in the county that might just profit off of it. Thank you. That's all I have.
Colleen Hufford.
Hello, my name's Colleen Hufford, 527 Queensmere Circle in Castleberry, Florida. And I came here, I've talked last month about gaming and gambling. I read a letter from John, who has already spoken, from him about my concern of gaming and gambling, and that seems to be the holding part for me of this project. I'm a former commissioner in Castleberry for 12 years, and I also work to help get rid of adult entertainment too. So I've been around for 42 years here in our community, and I've seen some good things, and I think we are going into a good direction. I am a little concerned, and my question is, and Mr. Cordish, I really appreciate you and your company and all that you have been doing, Ballpark, 4th Street, P&L, and Texas Live, all of them are already in an urban setting and were put into an urban setting. My concern is that our area is really not urban. The neighborhoods are close to this. And so this is a great concern. And why would you come here except for the poker card? And so that's what I really am opposed to about the whole thing is that. I'm concerned about the traffic, like I've heard. I'm concerned about crime. I've been concerned about the density. I've been talking to citizens, not even about the project, but the first thing they say is density. And they don't even live in Castleberry. It's people that I meet. And I'm not even bringing it up. It just seems that comes to be the problem. I would say that component of the gambling is what kind of stops me in my tracks. The other question I have,
bus station. That's a problem. And what would you do with that? Now, I know that's all down the road, but those are the kinds of questions that I'm asking about this. And what is Plan B? What is Plan B if there isn't just that 2,000 square foot or 2,500 square foot gaming component or card room component? Why is that so important for this project? So anyway, I just wanted to bring this up. Lots of talking. I just really hope that we can make a good project, not only for Seminole County, but for South Seminole County, which will see most of the impact. And I want to be able to see that they are able to communicate, be community leaders, but also communicate with our community of the concerns we have, and that the organization would talk to us, and also you as a commission would talk to us about this whole project and keep us informed. Thank you.
The final speaker form is Wynn Adams.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. My name is Wynn Adams. I'm also here on behalf of my homeowners association.
Ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Adams.
Amen.
Amen.
Let's get back on point. Mr. Adams, can you give us your address, please?
Yes, it's 646 Fellowship Drive, Fern Park, Florida. I'm also here on behalf of my condo association, Coach Light Estates, Section 2, which I am a member of the board of directors.
So I'm sure you're addressing both the men and the women of this board. Thank you very much.
Right on. This morning, I had a discussion with a gentleman by the name of Bob Turk. I'm sure you all know him. He was involved heavily with the development of Seminole County back in the 90s, as I was when I was on the Seminole County Commission. One of the things that we learned was that it was very, very important to attract the right type of industry to our community if we wanted to be very successful. Now, the thing that drove the development of the I-4 corridor was, of course, our school system. Back in the 90s, Money Magazine came out with an article talking about the top 100 public school systems in the nation. Seminole County was one of them. We ran that as a county commissioner up the flagpole and went actively communicating to people in industry that this is the place to come down and stay. And we were pretty successful at doing that. With my discussions with Bob Turk, he has a concern, as I do, about the type of industry that we want in our county. Will it bring in high-paying jobs? Or will we be educating our children and they will have to leave because there's no work for them? This is something that you really have to take into consideration. Now, I noticed that if you take a look at the screen, and it talks about the developer of this area and what they concentrate on. And if you go over and take a look at the key factors, this is what they say on their website. I think you need to really take it into consideration, saying, is this type of industry going to be compatible with the industry that we currently have in Seminole County, in the industry that we want to attract? Those are the decisions that the commission are going to have to make. And they're absolutely critical for the growth of our county. Now, one of the concerns I have about that was listed on their brochure, it talked about that they had 1,127 new apartment units. Well, that isn't, apartment units, is this short-term or is this long-term? There is a big emphasis that this project is absolutely necessary to have this gambling room, this card room. Well, one of the unfortunate side effects of gambling is it can also be used for money laundering. Possibility, doesn't say it's going to be, but the door is there. Now, why is it so important that they have this key element to their community is you've got to have this gaming room? Why is that necessary? If it's only representing 5% of the entire project, why must you have that? And yet, if you say, well, fine, if you just eliminate it, it's a go, would they do it? I don't think so. Not based upon what is on the screen. These are the things you have to take into consideration as commissioners. If you're going to make long, good, sound decisions for our children and grandchildren. We talk about the 4,500 plus new jobs. What kind? This is entertainment industry. Are they high-paying jobs? I don't think so. These are the things that I would like for you to take into consideration before you make the decision. The other thing is I personally believe that this is something that you need to have them petition out on the street. Go door to door knocking to find out if this is what the Seminole County residents want. Because I don't believe anyone has been beating on your door saying, hey, we've got to do this. I could be wrong, and if I am, hopefully I will stand corrected. Now, here's something as a vision as what could be done with the area. Ideally, it would be unusual, but maybe what we want to do is put in a farmer's market of some sort with a wellness center so that we educate people as to how to eat properly and take care of themselves. Because I'm a firm believer that you are what you eat and breathe, and if you don't use it, you lose it. But are we teaching our children, this is how you can grow crops? You've got the land over there that could be used for that. We could also teach them, this is how you prepare food. This would be of real benefit for them going forward in their lives. It's an idea, you know, and because you got the space. Anyways, I appreciate your time, but please take these things into consideration because the decisions you're making now are going to have a major impact on our future and our children. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Cheney, any other requests?
Not for this item, sir.
Okay. Anyone else in the audience like to speak on this item? Either for or against before I close public input. So you need to come forward, fill out a form. Does anyone else please come down and fill out a form? And after this gentleman speaks, I don't see anyone who will close public input.
It's in the lobby.
After you speak, sir, can you fill out the form? After.
I can.
Just give us your name and address for the record. You'll be given 3 minutes.
Aaron McGowan, 2598 Wells Avenue, Fern Park, Florida. Let me start with saying, reading from the Bible, "He who oppresses the poor to get gain for himself, and he who gives to the rich will surely come to want." Communities who legalize lotteries and gambling are oppressing the poor for gain. So that's the bottom line. I don't think that that's what we want to do in our community. I think that it goes strictly against what you guys have tried to do over the last years. So I moved to Castleberry in 2018 after I retired from the military. And I love my community. I love my neighbors. And from what I see, it's a great community. So I've been there since you guys have made the improvements. I don't know what it was like before, but I think that the putting a local room here would be a shift back in opposite direction where you guys have gone. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Please fill out that yellow form. Okay, seeing no other comments, we're going to close public input. Mr. Jones, would you like to come to the podium and rebut? This is not another presentation, just rebut.
Just, thank you, Chairman. Just briefly, just to try to respond to some of the
Yes,
things
sir.
that were said. When it comes to the questions on densities and the use on densities, I think that ship's already left the port. I mean, this is the the location that you put high density. In fact, the county did a long study, and the county is the ones that put these densities into this project. Part of the Seminole County's future land use and transportation element portion of that study identified this site for this use. We didn't do that. We are operating under the framework of the developers agreement that we put together with the county, so we're not the bad guys. Development, high-density development is going to happen on this location. That's going to happen. I mean, I know people don't like it, but that's what's going to happen here. So the question becomes, what do you want to see there? Okay? And several people came up here and said, why a poker room? Why a poker room? What happens if the poker room fails? This is a proven formula. That's why they're doing it. That's why the poker room is the linchpin of this project, okay? The poker room drives the sports and social, which is the big anchor. The big anchor drives the other high-end retail, which drives the high-end luxury homes or apartments. So it's all fit together. So if you take one piece out, it doesn't work. This product, what we're offering to Seminole County, what Cordish wants to bring into Seminole County, it's a package, and it's worked several times. It hasn't failed. I just sat over next to Mr. Cordish and asked him, well, what does happen if the poker room fails? He said it's never failed, but if it does, the whole thing keeps going. They'll bring something in place of that poker room. It may not be gambling, but it's never failed because this is a proven formula. Okay, so that answers that question. Try to remember. I don't have my glasses on.
You want to borrow mine?
It's all right.
What happens with age?
I'm telling you, it just happened in the last year.
I have a spare set.
I think that's all the things I want to address right now. I'm happy to come back up and answer any questions that the board has.
Before we go to the board, I'd like to, thank you, Mr. Jones.
Yep.
Before we go to the board, I'd like to take a 2-3 minute recess, if that's no objections. 5-minute recess.
We can't do anything in 2 or 3 minutes.
I want to make a comment. I want to thank the citizens for being very mindful of the time. I thought you watched the clock very well, and no one really went over. So I want to thank you for that. Before we go to the board, I'd like to go to the county attorney again to see if he has any additional comments, and the county manager, and then we'll go to the board.
Sure. Certainly want to follow up on a few things that were brought up. So during the break, a question came up to me about the process if the board decided to send it to the ballot. What would happen is the board would have to vote by a majority vote to instruct my office along with staff to create an ordinance for your consideration, setting it for a vote during the general election. The ordinance would be advertised for a public hearing, and there would be obviously time for public comment for both for and against the referendum item that would be worded. And a vote would then be taken by this board whether or not to adopt the ordinance to setting it on the ballot. The other method, even though, as I said earlier, you're kind of the gatekeeper, obviously, if there was a citizen petition with the 7.5% of the qualified voters signing it, bringing it to the board to have it on the ballot, then that would be your decision to do so. So I hope that answers that question.
Thank you, Mr. Applegate. Mr. Abel, any additional comments?
I have nothing to add at this time.
Okay, at this time, we'll go to the board.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Constantine, Commissioner Constantine, excuse me.
Thank you very much. You know, this board is elected to make some tough decisions. And I think that this is another one. I think we've made some tough decisions on some game-changing potential situations where a shift in motion for this county would occur. And Mr. Cordish, I just want to tell you that I am very familiar with the ULI, and the Urban Lands Institute, and getting those awards is a great honor, and congratulations. And I see the pretty pictures, and I see what you're doing, and quite frankly, you know, I have no problem with the concept. But this property has had pari-mutuels there for a long time, even before I was born, and that's a long time. I've lived in Seminole County all my life. And one of the things that now makes us, and this is not me talking, this is rankings in the state of Florida, the #1 place to raise a family in Florida, and the #1 county to live in Florida, is that we made a conscious decision over the course of time to try to create a family and pro-business and you know, environmentally sound and beautiful area for all of us to live, grow, raise a family. And one of the things that I loved about the CRA that we have spent a great deal of money on is the fact that it was going to be redeveloping all of this area. And the 1,000 units or whatever number of units that we were talking about earlier was going to happen regardless of this project. It wasn't this project and then the 1,000 units. It was, we were going to have, you know, a more denser area, a densely populated area. I'm having a problem getting that out. For that area, we've been using eminent domain to get property that we can improve that area. And as I said, I have no problem with the Dave and Buster's on steroids, which is what basically this looks like to me. But when I get in what I think to be a request that, but if we don't have a 2,000 square foot out of a 50,000 square foot 2,000 square foot card room, that this isn't going to happen, I have to call something that I can't say publicly about it. It just doesn't make sense. I will be very honest. Mr. Sawinski and I have worked together before. I was chairman of No Casinos in Seminole County in 1994 when we both worked hard against the proliferation of casinos in Florida. So I come from this naturally, that I just didn't feel that this is the right move for Seminole County. But we're not here to say whether we're going to have a casino, whether we're going to have additional gambling, or whether we're going to have a card room, or whether we're going to have the sports and social club. What we're here to decide is whether or not we will allow a free pass on to the ballot. And one of the reasons that we shouldn't have is because we would have all these other petitions and it would get confusing. Those petitions, as been stated by the public and others, it's over. I believe that it's about 25,000 petitions that are needed. Is that approximately correct? 25,000?
Approximately.
I got to tell you, I was speaking to the Sanford Chamber of Commerce the other day, 40 members. I asked how many had heard about this. Now, this is 4 days ago. 2 out of the 40 had heard about this. The most important thing that we should realize is that we need public discourse. We need discussion. We need education about this. And frankly, I think that a petition drive would do that best. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm ready to make a motion, but I think my fellow members may want to say something else. But when the time comes, I would be happy to make a motion to reject a commission-initiated referendum and allow the referendum, or allow the citizen petition drive referendum, which we don't have to allow. It's just they have the right to do so.
Commissioner Lockhart.
So, as the district commissioner, I have some questions, if there's some folks who'd be willing to answer some questions.
Thank you.
Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, awesome.
Ma'am.
I think
Good job.
this might be for the county attorney. In some of what you read to us from statute, you referred several times to casino gambling and the definition of casino gambling. And I just want to know, was what Mr. Jones described today for what this project, would that fit the definition of casino gambling?
The definition of casino gambling in our charter, and I'll read, playing or engaging in any game of chance for money or any other thing of value, regardless of how the game is named, labeled, or otherwise characterized, which game was unlawful in the Constitution of the State of Florida as of 1996. So the answer is yes.
Yes, okay. And then we talked a lot about the property itself and how it's been used in the past. What rights does this property have to continue a form of casino gambling or parimutuel or otherwise?
As Mr. Jones has represented, that they have a valid license at this point in time.
Okay. So, got it. And then, again, I would have to say, Mr. Jones or Mr. Cordish, to whomever, I immediately, one of the first things I wrote down, which all of the other citizens that have spoken picked up on, is if the house is only making minimal money on the card room, why is it needed to make the deal work? That was one of the first things that I wrote down. And I'm not in your business, and I don't know how the math works, so I would never profess to say whether it could or couldn't run without that de minimis space, but it certainly was a question, and if you want to expand on that, I think what I heard Mark Jones say, give me just 1 second, I want to hone in on specifically what I'm asking about, because I don't want this to become an opportunity for another presentation. I heard the fact that the card room is the key, it makes this work. It's never failed. This is the special sauce. But if for some reason the card room was to fail, we would find something else. Mr. Jones, that was what I heard you say. Could you tell me whether or not I interpreted that correctly?
I mean, again, you're asking me to answer a question that I don't have an answer to because it hasn't failed before. So the response to that is, do we have a contingency plan? They would fill the void because they wouldn't have a choice.
Okay.
Right? These folks are not going to allow this to fail, right? It hasn't yet.
So I guess my question would be, if it's not approved to include a card room on that site, to Commissioner Constantine's point, it is interesting to me that the entire deal has been presented to us as resting on that room. And if that is not approved, not only does this project not occur, but we're putting affordable housing there.
Well, the product that has been proposed by this developer is this.
Right.
That is the product that they produce for people, right? That's their product. To ask them to come in and do a different product, it's like asking McDonald's to do a Big Mac. Wait, they do the Big Mac, the Whopper. I don't eat fast food, I'm sorry. You get my point, right?
Exactly. I do get your point. I think.
I mean, you get my point.
I do.
So.
I do get your point, but I also still think that it's a legitimate question on the part of members of the board and the community, because it's a very big ask.
And understand, you have a property owner, RD Management, who is partnered with a developer, the Cordish Companies, to propose the project at hand right now.
Right. And I think that's important,
Right,
too,
that's
to
what
point
I'm
that
trying
out.
to make
This
the
is not
distinction.
our property, right? This is not the county's property to do with what we want.
You can't do a farmer's market if that's what the county
Can't
wants
do a
to do.
farmer's market. Right. No offense, Mr. Adams, but that's, yeah, it's not our space to do with as we see fit. It is owned by a private property owner, and he's trying to work with the developer to maximize his investment, and he's allowed to do that, and I appreciate that. The density was discussed. I think I appreciate, again, Mr. Constantine, you bringing that up. I understand that that's a conversation that has already occurred about the future of this property. It will be a highly dense planned piece. The piece that we're talking about is whether or not this board wants to be the one to put the card room concept on the ballot.
That's the question on the table.
And the last time this was presented to voters was 25 years ago. And a lot's changed in 25 years. A lot's changed in the community. A lot has changed in the way that traditional gambling is viewed. We have a World Series of Poker on ESPN. We do have, father and son poker tournaments in people's homes. It's become more of a it's become more socially acceptable 25 years later, I believe, from what I've seen, than initially, when this was initially presented to voters. I'm not convinced that this project, with the inclusion of a card room, would be a horrible thing. I'm not convinced it would be horrible, but I'm also not convinced it would be great. And because I'm not being moved in a convincing way either way, I started to think about this whole concept of putting things to the voters and the discourse that needs to happen, and the fact that, each of us have our names on the ballot every 4 years. And we have an opportunity to choose how we want to put our name on the ballot. We can collect thousands of petitions, and through that process have the opportunity to meet thousands of people and go door to door and go to coffees and go to different organizations to get to meet people. And through that process of collecting those thousands of petitions, you learn a lot. You learn a lot about the people you're actually representing. You learn a lot about what the community really needs and wants, and they get to learn a lot about you. You can do that, or you can write a check and you can get on the ballot. And I'm not saying one is better than the other, but you have options. And I personally feel, in order to be consistent with some other things that this board has talked about recently as October, we said that we felt that it was best for the community to have there be discourse, to have there be that opportunity for education, that items, unless they were of an emergent, critical nature that had to be done immediately, definitely for the betterment of this community, that this board would allow citizens to take the initiative to put things on the ballot. So in order to be consistent, because that's kind of important to me and who I am and how I make my decisions, I'm leaning in that direction of encouraging a citizen petition.
Commissioner, may I respond to that?
You can.
Thank you. I want to make a distinction to what happened in October and some of the comments that were made about previous people wanting to bypass the petition process and what Commissioner Constantine said. There's a pretty big distinction. Those people are attempting to amend the charter or put something new on the charter. That's not what we're trying to do. I'm asking you to follow the charter. It's already been contemplated. The people reserved the right unto themselves to make the decision when it comes to gambling. This isn't something new that hasn't had the discourse. Already happened. You noted it happened 20 years ago. I'm asking you folks to follow the charter and let the people make the decision. Nothing new's going in. Do what the charter says. There's a big distinction.
So could I follow up then on that? So other than my cardiac assessment and my trips to the produce department at Publix, I do not have a current finger on the pulse of how the citizens of Seminole County and the voters of this county would respond to your project. So I'm not sure, again, because I'm not convinced that it's a great thing and I'm not convinced it would be a horrible thing, I'm not sure why we would go to that measure of doing that for this. And I see the distinction you're trying to make. I'm not blind to the distinction, but for me, I don't think that this rises to the level of this board putting it on the ballot without there being some great indication that the citizens are driving this. That's where I'm at.
Thank you. Mr. Zimbauer, Commissioner Zimbauer, and Commissioner Herr.
Thank you. I actually have struggled with this since the inception, since it was growing legs and discussed. This is not about the density. This is not about development in this corridor. Those decisions have already been made by this board and previous boards decades ago. There is going to be high-density residential and commercial in this area, no matter what happens. But as many of you have heard me say many times, I struggle with decisions, but I will always follow the letter of the law, whether I like it or not. And sometimes that's a hard pill to swallow. It goes against my beliefs personally, against my core. And the reality is here, in my opinion, we're talking about the wrong thing here. This is really talking about what's already reserved to the electorate. This is not about approving a project. This is not about how that project is done. This is about a charter amendment, 5.1, that was put in place, that if you read it, goes on to talk about is valid until such time that the state constitution or the legislature takes an action to approve certain gambling. Well, they did that. They did that with 849.086, card rooms authorized in the Florida statute. When they did that, so that was back in 2010. For some reason, I was not here. It took 8 years for somebody to go, wow, we found out that Seminole County has a charter amendment. So in 2018, Chapter 2018-172, House Bill number 1017, which was signed by the governor on March 23rd, 2018, and filed with the Secretary of State in 2018, talks specifically with what council read into the record earlier, that it's reserved by the Board of County Commission to make those decisions. But it does not go far enough to talk about any petitions, so it's legal. Card rooms are already legal in this state, no matter what. For me, the question is, whether I like card rooms or don't like card rooms or like any of it, is it's a matter of what the legislature has already done, what the Casino Gambling Amendment 5.1 already says. This is a decision for the electorate. It's not a decision for this board. It's not our decision whether gambling should happen or not. The decision is to the electorate. And I, as a commissioner, am not going to stand in front of the electorate when it says the electorate's the ones that make that decision. For me, this is about whether you're going to let the electorate decide or not, and nothing else and nothing more. Had the legislature not done what they did, then I would say absolutely. We have the discretion to do one or the other. Now, that's not to say for any issue, if citizens bring a petition, we should absolutely consider that and move forward accordingly. But this, in my opinion, is more about whether you're going to let the citizens, it clearly says this is reserved for the electorate. It's not our job to make that decision for the electorate. It's for the electorate. They're the ones that have to take that vote and decide, not us. So for me, it's about whether you let the citizens decide or not. I don't know of any more democratic process than that. And that's my position.
Thank you. Commissioner Herr?
It really is an interesting dilemma. And I'm going to pick up where you left off and just state that I think the citizens have the opportunity to make the decision per the electorate. They also have the opportunity to get it onto the ballot. So by us pushing it to the ballot doesn't change their opportunity to vote on it. It's just the process by which it gets there. And so I am concerned that if truly the process is two options, one is we bypass the citizens' petition process and go straight to ballot, that's going to be expected of other issues, and I don't know how we say no to other issues when we're not saying no to this. And secondly, that there is an educational process that happens by virtue of petitions. And by the way, I was elected a little over a year ago and gathered petitions during shutdown. And it's not impossible. It's just different. The entire universe has pivoted, so COVID's not the excuse. But I do want to go back and make sure that we understand. I have done some math up here. And so I truly am looking at, and this may not be the right math, but I'm going to try to get close here because I think this question of whether or not, let's call it like it is this a red herring or is it not? Is this card room a red herring that this eventually becomes a bigger casino operation than the card room? And that's the reality that the citizens are concerned about in this county, and I would have the same concern. And full disclosure, I grew up in Atlantic City. I was there when gambling came in. I know what it was like before. It was worse before than it was after. And a good bit of the reason why the businesses went out of business is because they could barely hold on before it came in, and there was now competition after gambling. So I don't want to misrepresent what gambling does and what it doesn't do. It also provided for an amazing amount of corruption, and it also and it's part of the reason why we're in Florida, and it also provided for an amazing amount of workforce development. There's good and bad to every single business. But I cannot get past the fact that if this poker room is not allowed, doesn't go through, then I can't do this property. And I've asked the question before. I've now tried to do the math. I think it generates somewhere between 100 and 200 million a year if you're taking $5 a hand and you're running, I think I calculated this based on 20 tables in the room, based on running a 24-hour operation and based on a hand taking a minute. Just simple math. And so I still don't see how this drives to the profit margin of this entire operation. I still don't see the math, even with maximizing it out. So I really would like to understand how the math on 2,500 square feet, and I get that you're taking $5 a hand, possibly per person, so I didn't calculate that. I'm going to own that. I did not calculate that. That probably makes it fivefold. But if you're taking $5 per hand, how is this thing supporting the entire bottom line profit margin for this gigantic operation? I mean, I am asking the question. Decide amongst yourselves who's going to answer that, because up until now, this has not been answered. So I would
Mr.
suggest that the
Jones,
same
would you like to
speaker
answer?
doesn't keep answering it.
Mr. Jones, can you give us your name, please? Even though we all
Mike
know.
Jones. Which address you want me to use?
Whatever one you want.
787 Mardon Lane, Winter Springs, Florida.
Thank you.
You get hung up on this amount of poker, and it's a draw, just like Mickey Mouse is out here. Well, gambling is a draw. People come to gamble, and while they're gambling, they spend their money over there. Gambling is not a stay point, it's a draw. It's what makes it a destination. It's what makes people come from Tampa, from Jacksonville, all around here. If you didn't have the card room, you wouldn't get those people from around there. They come in to spend their money right here in Seminole County. So don't get hung up on the fact that this project hangs on the card room. It hangs on the ability to use that card room as the draw to bring in the business that this county wants. This county needs that people coming in for the business, and they don't come. We talked to a preacher the other day, and he said, back to the time, you may remember that the reason that last, the charter amendment was changed before was because your friend Dick Vanderwhite, it was across the street from a church. And Dick didn't like that. It was across the street from the church. And Dan Hunter, he put a stop to it. Totally different situation. This is on the corner of one of the busiest routes in Seminole County that you've designated for master development, the core of your development. And we've got all these people coming here to settle in this spot. And what are they coming here for? Let's go over there and gamble a little bit and spend a lot of money. Gambling's not you got all these shops, all these other things. If they didn't have that, where would these people come from? Why would they come? I mean, if they want to go shopping, they go to the mall. I mean, if they want to watch, there's a dozen sports things around here where you want to watch TV. You can't see 100 square foot, but you can watch TV. Why wouldn't they go there instead of here? They got a chance to go with their family and play poker. As the preacher said, I may go out and may I have them take my family, feed them, maybe even play a hand of poker. It ain't nothing to it. This is a family-oriented deal. Look at it. Look at those pictures that are before you, you know? So I hope I answered your question, or did I confuse you more?
I'm definitely not confused, for the record. I appreciate your answer. I would tell you that I think this is a concept that needs to be fully vetted through the process that's established for getting somebody elected, getting something passed, getting a change to the charter. I'd be ready to hear the motion from the district commissioner.
Would the district commissioner like to make a recommendation, or would it be another commissioner?
It is a countywide issue, for sure, and we do share this, but I would like, I think there's a little bit more to add to this, and Commissioner Delary, you haven't had an opportunity to weigh in either, and so I want to make sure you get that opportunity before someone makes the motion. But the picture that's being painted is a very attractive picture, and you've done a wonderful job. And I think that same picture, if you're so convinced that this is the special sauce, the citizens of this community will respond to that vision that you're casting. And you know, we've got a pretty smart electorate, and people in Seminole County may have made some pretty good decisions up to this point, and I think this is one, after 25 years, that it is time for the voters to speak. And I don't believe that us asking for a citizen petition to come to us to then put this on the ballot is usurping those citizen voices. I do believe they're we've just got a great group of citizens, and I think that they deserve to have the time to be courted, if you will, for this potential change. That being said, I also don't know of, and I know quite a few guys who play poker. I might live with one of them. And
Both men and women play poker.
yes, both.
Thank
That's
you for
true.
that.
Both men and women play poker. That's very true.
Make sure that's clear.
Yep, we're going to be equal opportunity here for sure.
Just want to be clear.
Yep. And I can tell you that I don't know that they would, from my experience, go and enjoy playing several hands of poker and then going and shopping at Tommy Bahama. Like, I'm not, I understand that, you know, that the concept is that that this poker room is driving the retail, but I don't see my guys getting up from that poker table and going shopping. I don't know, I'm not seeing it. And I'm not going to go hang out with them either. It's going to be something they'll go do on their own. But anyway, so I'm going to go with alternative 2 to make this motion and move that the board deny the request for a voter referendum placed on the ballot by this board. And I would modify alternative 2 to add that if a petition drive that is consistent with other portions of our charter be presented to this board, that we contemplate putting it on the ballot at that time.
May I suggest one more?
Second.
Just wait 1 minute. We have a motion.
Is
there a
that
second?
second?
Is
We have
that
a motion and a
clear?
second.
Should I clarify
Mr. Jones,
anything?
I'll come back to you in a second. Okay. Before we enter into discussion, the applicant, Mr. Jones, had a question. Mr. Jones? I just want to make sure we had a legal motion on the table.
Okay, what you're doing is you're suggesting or telling us we got to go back and get a petition to get this before the ballot, before the people. We started to do that, but Bob suggested we roll it over to January meeting. We did. You know what happens in January? It won't make the November ballot. It won't be on the ballot because the time frame, it has to have it in, I think it's 60 or 90 days or whatever it is before the election. There's no to be certified. We can't get all the signatures in, I think, maybe it amounts to now like 3 or 5 months. They can't do it. It's impossible. So that rolls it off. If it went out to the next general election, 2024. So what you're doing is you're pushing us. We got in a position, we'd like to, I mean, that's what I want to do to start with the petition drive. We can't do it. And we got enough problems with the county's delay already, but you're going to make us push it out another year or longer. We can't do that. You need to consider that. Is that not right, Brian?
You would have to have the ballot sent, or the ballot wording sent to the supervisor of elections by no later than, I would say, 90 days before the general election, so August 1st, give or take.
Okay.
So
But
6 months from now.
But what you just outlined a while ago, that when we bring in the petition, or we're here now, you got to take it and play with it, get the ballot right, and then what you got to do is you got to get the board to put it in an ordinance form and vote on it. How long is that going to take? A month?
Mike, the wording for the ballot proposition, Mark and I could work up in a matter of no time, really, and that wording would be on the petition form pursuant to Chapter 47 of the Code of Ordinances.
Well, you've had those words for the ballot now for 2 months. I ain't heard anything one way or the other. So when are we going to get the word? The bottom line is we've told you we can't do the petition. So be your vote.
Any other questions or comments or discussion? Commissioner Constantine?
Thank you. I just want to make sure that, you know, the motion is that we move the board to deny the request for a board-initiated referendum on whether or not to allow a card room, and this does not prevent the requester from seeking a citizen initiative. Okay.
And there was a motion and a second for that.
Yeah, and I just wanted to clarify because there was a little bit, I think that there is time if the applicant wishes to perform or to go the petition initiative form. I do wish, because he has been, a partner in the development of the CRA and the process with Oxford Road. I wish RD Development all the success. And like the rest of us, the concept, the pictures are beautiful, the concept is fine. And I, for one, just don't see why it is the pendulum swings based upon the 2,500 square foot card room. It's not my business. I'm not in that business, but the fact of the matter is, if that's what it requires, then I think the citizens, through discussion and through education and through discourse of a petition drive, will decide one way or another. And so therefore, I am fully supportive of the motion.
Any other discussion? Commissioner Herr.
I actually want to point out that one of the reasons why I prefer this methodology, in addition to the others that I cited, is that it is actually in your best interest to socialize this way in this community.
I agree.
For the long-term success of building a better neighbor. Doing this differently than we've done in the past. And remember, I'm the outsider now. I've been here for a very long time, and I still feel like a little bit of an outsider because I can't stand up and say I was born in Seminole County. But we just need it to go through the same process that any other thing would go through in the county for the best outcome for your development. And I would wish you no more than the greatest of success, and I hope to be at your ribbon cutting. So with that, I'd turn it back over.
Thank you, Commissioner. Seeing no more discussion, we'll call the question. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion passes 5-0. Okay, that ends our afternoon presentations. Let's take a 2-minute recess while the room resets itself.
Yeah.
Afternoon presentations. We've already gone through the county manager's report, county attorney's report, district commissioner's chairman's report. Future agenda items is none requested. We got public items not related to the agenda. Shani?
We have two speakers, Clyde Robertson, followed by Bill Hyde.
Okay. Please give us your name and address for the record.
Clyde
You'll
Robertson
be given 3 minutes.
Jr., 836 Stevens Pass Cove. Here to speak on behalf of my business and also as the director of the Florida Propane Gas Association. I've got 3 handouts.
Okay.
Is that okay?
We'll start the clock after you're back at the podium. Just give us all of it, and then we'll hand it out ourselves. Yep.
One passable, one passable.
Thank you. Thank you, Clyde. Commissioner?
Thank you.
Commissioner?
Thank you. Commissioner?
This is the whole packet. This is going to go to the clerk.
Just these 2.
Commissioner, here's another one.
I spoke before y'all in...
Hold on one second.
Okay.
I don't
Are there
have my
3
copy.
pages?
Yes.
Yes, 3 for each of you. There's yes. And I can address that when you start. Did I give you something wrong?
Well, I just want to make sure that as you're going through it, that I'm looking at what, because I have 2 pages
Here,
stapled
all those
together
3 the
here.
same?
Yeah, that's for me.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
That's okay.
This is a table.
Keep one for you.
Okay. No, you're fine. We just want to make sure we got it.
There's local fire marshal.
1, 2,
permit
3.
applications.
I've got 2.
2 permit applications and 1 from the local fire marshal.
Which one of y'all messed this whole
Terry.
thing up coming down through there?
I might not.
Thank you, Clyde.
What?
Thank you, Clyde. If you could start now, that'd be great.
Oh, wait a
Okay.
minute. I don't have my 3rd page.
What are you missing?
I have these.
You're missing the ponds.
You're missing one of these. Okay, sorry.
You need this one.
Okay, and...
Well, if you have 1 permit, the second one is almost identical, Commissioner Zimbauer. If you have the key one is the state fire marshals
Okay, you've got all 3.
from our county's letter, and 1 or 2 permits, drawings.
Commissioner Hearn and I both have everything, I think, now.
Thank you.
Pass stuff from this end out.
Sorry.
Yeah. We'll sort it and get it down there the right way.
Thank you, Clyde. If we could start.
Okay, obviously this is important to me. I'm an owner of Thermotane Propane, been doing residential gas and commercial gas since 1947. My family has, I reminded you of that. We are having a issue with how our local state fire marshal is interpreting the code book, and we talked of that earlier, and the first time I came before you, the person that spoke before me was told by our county attorney, well, I have to follow state law, and I started then with, well, that's awesome, and I gave y'all a copy of the declaratory statement that states there's no need for cities and counties to argue about the NFPA fire code that is a national thing. There's no reason to have any argument about it because it states clearly in the book that you can put a propane tank in the ground 10 foot from the buildable property line. And how we come to that, if you want to look on either one of those permitted sheets, you can see that these are zoned R-1, AAA in one, and in the other one, it is zoned, well,
One's zoned A1, the other's one
and
AAA.
both of those have a 10-foot setback for a home to be built on. So therefore, that's how we determine the buildable property line. We are all in this for safety. Yes, I like to make money on my work, but more importantly, we have run a safe business for many years. So we go and submit a permit to the building department. The building department has an engineer who looks at it also and determines if this is a reason to give us a permit. We go and we do the job, and up until 3 years ago, the building department gave us a final. Check off, we're good. Right before COVID, I don't know the exact time, I believe as the commission, y'all must have given the right to the fire marshal to go and inspect and do the final, because they want to know where a hazardous material is in our county. Well, we thought that's great. That just gives us another eye to look at what we're doing. It can't hurt anything. It's got to be safer. Well, unfortunately, the fire marshal division of this county says, and if you look at her letter, and the underlined first thing is she has an inability to confirm setbacks that will be established. Well, she has that ability because all she has to do is read the zoning laws for that neighborhood, and it establishes. So if you look at the drawings on the 2 permitted sheets, you will see, number one, both of them, we were simply replacing the tanks where they had been permitted and approved previously with bigger tanks because both homes were adding a generator. So one is 7 foot from the property line, another one is 7 foot 6 inches from the property line. It's well far off the buildable property line. So I don't understand where we're getting confused on what we can and cannot determine. I've got all kind of other notes, but I just, she has gone for, and you're reading what she has asked for, an informal interpretation. That interpretation she got, by the way, if you read it, which I didn't give you a copy of that because I might be making some of this up. But the way I read it is they told her that you might have a problem figuring this out, but you're going to have to deal with your local zoning rules. I can give you another copy of that later. But the question is, for us as a group, how did it come to this point when we have a declaratory statement and we have the code books that are, it's a fluent code book. It can be changed at any time, but it goes through the process like we were just talking about with the previous person. And we've been doing this for many, many years. And I would just like her to say that we just all want to work together and we want to make this all work. Now, the key is when I submitted, my company submitted by our permit specialist to Seminole County to do these jobs, we did say we would be 10 foot from the property line, only because she had already ruled that we couldn't put buildable in there. And when we went to revise the permits to say buildable property line, now the building department said, oh, we can't do that. You're in a dispute with the county. You can't revise your permits. All I'm asking, because there is another way to get it to where we could put it anywhere that the neighbor allows us to. If the neighbor will allow us to sign a notary equivalency, then we could do this. But I don't think that that is the answer to the question. I need the answer to the question to be, let's follow the books, let's all get along. I hate confrontation. I think most of you know me. I would walk away from anything that I could. But this is too important to the state. I had a, okay. I tried to get on the agenda, but I was told this wasn't an agenda item.
So before we go to the board, and thank you very much, Clyde, for your waiting all day to speak to us. I want to go to the county attorney because when we start dealing with fire marshals and safety issues, I want to make sure that we're, number one, being safe. Number two, following the intent of the code, not just the letter of the code. But I think we want to make sure that we're legal, so I want to make sure we speak to the county attorney first. Please bear with us for a moment. Mr. Applegate?
Between headphones, hearing aids, glasses, sorry. Mr. Robertson, I appreciate your comments and your position, and right now, I want to read to the board the end of a memo that Christina Diaz, our fire marshal, sent to you on January 30th. Please know I'm only attempting to enforce the minimum requirements of the fire code to ensure the safety of the citizens who dwell on those properties, as well as our first responders. We also have no opposition to House Bill 635, which prohibits changes from the approved building permit. The plans approved for the proposed LP tanks clearly indicated that the tanks were located 10 feet from the property line. We are now only verifying that the installation meets the approved plans. I am hoping to receive resolution of this matter quickly and will oblige with whatever determination is made by the state. I appreciate your time and patience in this matter. I'm confident that the conclusion of the deck statement will be an asset to all contractors and fire marshals throughout the state of Florida, as I know we all share the mutual efforts in the safety and protection of life and property.
When was that dated?
January 30th. So Christina's working with the state. I can't be any more, and I know that Paul Chipok has talked to you several times.
Yesterday.
And the latest yesterday, that, we're working with the state to try and get a resolution to this. But I cannot, and I would strongly recommend to this board, in fact, I'll tell you how strongly I feel. This is Cardinal Rule 101 on local government lawyers. I cannot override the determination of a fire marshal, and I don't plan to because, one, she's good at her job. She's doing everything she can to protect the county and the citizens. She is following what she believes to be a valid interpretation, although there's a disagreement. And she's taking the extra step of going to the state to say, if I'm wrong, I'm happy to change my opinion. But just with other issues with the fire marshal, if I attempted to advise you to override the fire marshal in any interpretation, and somebody was killed, we're talking about loss of freedom. And I would strongly recommend that we wait to see what the state has in an opinion. But as the county attorney, I will not. In fact, I can tell you right now, if 3 members of this commission said, Bryant, you are to override the fire marshal, I will resign. That's how strongly I feel about it.
Just let's stay focused. Okay, so
I am focused on it, Mr. Chairman.
I understand that.
May I address any of that?
I've got a question.
Just wait 1 minute. We'll get to county commissioners, we'll get back to you as well. I think that the fire marshal as well as Paul Chipbach's been working with you as of late as January 31st, I believe. Is that correct?
30th. Well, and then Paul talked to him yesterday.
Okay, yesterday. Today's the 8th of February. I think it'd be prudent to let staff work this through the state agencies and get back to us, or you, to see where it's going. And I think that would be very prudent. Commissioner Zimbow, then Commissioner Herr.
So I would like some briefing and clarity on this from the standpoint of, I'm not saying that our fire marshal's correct or incorrect. What I'm seeing here is a business person who's been conducting business in our community for 40 years and has obviously been putting propane tanks on properties for 40 years.
And propane accessories.
Right. And now, I think what I'm hearing, correct me if I'm wrong,
So far.
but as of late, last 2 to 3 years, now the way it's been done for the 30-some years prior to that is no longer good. So I don't know what the answer is. It new code? Is it something we've adopted in our code? Is it something that we just was always code and never enforced? I don't know the answer to that, but I think we should know the answer to that. And understanding, I mean, as this businessman, I can't see spending 2 days, all day, waiting on us to give public comment to come complain about something that's not an issue. Now, if the codes change, it's changed. I got it. If his company and others have gotten away with it for 30-some years, okay, let's talk about that. I don't know that answer. But we've had, quite frankly, some other complaints about our fire marshal on other issues. So I would really like a briefing on understanding, have we had new codes? Are we just now enforcing them? What's the answer? I mean, for me, I think it's important. And once we have that, can we communicate that to the business people in a way to help them understand that? Instead of just saying our fire marshal says X, and that's the end of the story.
Yeah, could I give you some statistics just
Sure.
that is happening? Because I called the NPGA, which is our National Propane Gas, and I talked to Bruce Savinsky, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, and he made the determination, just like we all have, that if we're following NFPA 58, the specialist said, which is reiterating, that zoning determines the buildable property line. That's what national people go by. That's what the book that we go by goes by. The NFPA 58, which the fire people do, which we have an outstanding fire department. I'm just saying, House Bill 635 is dealing with local people trying to ask too much out of a developer in a building. I tried to tag and get it to where building officials, fire marshals, anybody that has jurisdiction cannot require something that's not in the book. I think this Bill 635 will pass easily this year, and I think then next year we'll have a bill saying, so y'all don't have to make this determination, because this does come up over the nation where someone will misread it and say, you can't do that. And we have to clarify. We have to do that. I spoke with our insurance carrier today. He writes with 131 companies throughout 14 states. He is an expert witness on this, and he has testified how this works and has enlightened a lot of people to how this rule reads. We do business with 37 cities and 6 other counties, and nowhere does this happen. Now, last week in Winter Park, I had an inspector say he didn't want us to put a tank on a solid partition block because a kid could go over and push it down. I love him for that. That's awesome. But I got to follow the code. I have to have it on a solid, it's the code. So what I'm asking is, where are the statistics to show that doing it by the book is harming any property or citizens? Show me where there's been an incident of a fire, a loss of life, property, and we'll try and change the code. Let's get the code changed. But until then, my insurance agent and my conscience says, do it by the book. I'm not saying she's wrong. I'm just saying she's misinterpreting it. She's not. She said she didn't have the ability. Well, when you gave her the job, she has to take on the ability of knowing the zoning laws for each community. I mean, I'm sorry to be a bad guy here and to answer the attorneys, yes, you were in touch with me, but can you imagine being these people? And you couldn't use propane over the holidays because the county's going to wait on a new declaratory statement, and we already have one? Could you imagine that? Okay. I mean, I'm not getting it. Guess what has happened to me now? On a personal note, my company has now been turned into the Better Business Bureau because we don't know what we're doing. That hurts. I'm done.
No, just wait 1 minute, sir.
We'll make sure we go to the right channels.
Just wait 1 minute, sir. Commissioner Herr?
Thank you. First of all, I just want to thank you for being so incredibly polite, because my office, Diana and I have been working with you for a long time, but I cannot by recall, and I apologize for this, please tell us how long this has been going on, because I love the idea that we should wait for a response, but I think we all need to understand how long this has been going on.
Well, it started on a job when the previous fire marshal was here, 2020. And at that time, we conceded because I'm not going to leave these people without propane gas, so we moved the tank. That's all fine. And then I thought I was telling her, she was the assistant at the time, I said, I'm going to come back on this. So yes, this has been going on now with this issue since September. And I have more statistics if you want them. I'm not trying to make, and I understand your position, except we have the statement. We have the declaratory statement. Yes, we were with the Department of Agriculture back then. Now we're with the Department of Consumer Affairs. But I contacted the LP Gas Bureau. They'll come down and speak to y'all. They'll come try and talk to the fire department. I don't know if you remember last time. We have trained in our state 14,000 fire people of the safety of how to handle hazardous material. We're all behind keeping us the A1 perfect county to live in. I just want to do my business, and I'm sorry that I have a conflict with this fire marshal, but until next year when I can get the ruling passed, hopefully in the state, that we can't do this anymore. Local people can't go above the book. That's all we're asking. And hopefully next year we'll get that passed. I mean, it is what it is. I'll wait for everything because I went out and hooked the people up so they had gas in case power went off during a storm. That may be illegal. You may be able to fine me for that. But I feel confident in the safety of the building department in this county, the rules in the book, and my company. And
So what I want to ask is that we do everything we can to engage at the state level to get this letter to be returned, that you, Joe, personally own bringing this over the finish line, because this has gone on for way too long, and quite honestly, I'm frustrated by the level of back and forth that's happened with it. I did ask the county attorney's office to call you again yesterday to try to avoid you having to sit here all day, but I do appreciate that something has changed. Maybe we don't all understand it, but let's figure it out and let's move on. It's just too much. This is not, we're open for business.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
thank you.
Next one is Mr. Hyde.
Bill Hyde.
Good afternoon. My name is Bill Hyde, 2379 Audley Street, Oviedo, Florida. I don't know how many of y'all are Monty Python fans, but now for something completely different. Try to end your day on a positive note, maybe.
Thank you,
We
Bill.
love your sense of humor, Mr. Hyde.
You all know that a couple of years ago, I was probably the only person that stood up here and objected to all the new fire fees, pulling it out of the millage and so on and so forth. I've been pretty consistent in that. But the promise was made that great things were coming, and the fire department was going to, everything was going to be great, and we were going to have the best fire department, and so on and so on and so forth. Well, not too long ago, I heard a presentation in these chambers that the fire department had finally gotten everything done that needed to be done, all the I's and the T's. We got a 92 out of 100, and we're now a ISO Class 1 county, everything everywhere.
Only one in the state.
And I was supposed to be impressed, but, I'm not impressed by too much of anything anymore. I didn't think too much about it, but then Calno meeting came up, and there was going to be a presentation by the fire chief, and it was a great presentation, by the way. And the subject ISO, the whole thing about ISO was going to be the presentation. And I knew that, I think it was February 1st, it was supposed to be the magic date, that we were all transformed in. Well, the meeting happened to be like on the 2nd or the 3rd. So being the eternal skeptic that I am, I immediately got in contact with my insurance company. And I said, hey, am I going to get a rate increase or decrease, or what's going to happen, and what's the ISO rating of my house? Well, I live in a place that used to be, I think it's a 2Y or an 8 or whatever one of those bad ones was. The response I got was, as of today, you're ISO 1. Folks, I got to say, I was impressed. I don't know how they did it. I don't know how they, got all the bells and the whistles and got all the i's and the t's crossed and also conveyed it to the insurance companies. And those of you who are very familiar with insurance, things don't always get there when they need to be for us folks that pay the taxes and have to pay the insurance bills for our homeowners, which has been really, really tough lately. So we got a break, and I just wanted the fire chief to know that, I'm the eternal skeptic, and I am also a big critic, but when you do something good, I think you deserve a pat on the back.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
Mr. Hyde? Mr. Hyde, I want to say thank you. There are times that we are criticized, and there's times that we're complimented, and I want to thank you for the compliment. I know it goes to the fire department, so thank you for recognizing that.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone else in the audience that would like to address the board on non-agenda items? Okay. Seeing none, we'll close that part of the meeting. There are no other items on the agenda. Anything for the good of the order? Ladies and gentlemen? Seeing none?
Good to see y'all.
Yeah,
Seeing
meeting
none,
adjourned.
meeting is adjourned.